Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we are back with another speed build. This is a speed build that I did building in Selvadorada for the very first time. I'm at least pretty sure I've never built here. I honestly don't do much with Jungle Adventure, honestly. I do utilize like their kitchen stuff that comes in the pack, and that's pretty much the extent of what I ever do with Jungle Adventure. I've come to Selvadorada to vacation like a couple of times since I've gotten this pack. And that's about it. I really don't use this pack that often in general, regardless if it's like for building or gameplay. I feel like I should probably do more. I've been wanting to do more with like packs that I don't normally use anyways. So that might be on the list of packs to utilize a little bit more. But for this build, obviously it is supposed to be kind of like very much like Mayan, Aztec kind of like vibes with it. So I tried my bestest. I spent a really long time just going back and forth, just doing research on kind of what houses look like in the areas. I mean, obviously the Mayan and Aztec empires were huge, so they were like all over not only just like South America, but like also Central and America and Mexico and everything. So I kind of just kept on like looking. I wasn't looking for any specific country. I was just looking for like older, like more ancient. Obviously I can't like replicate the ruins specifically. But I tried my best to just find like more of the staccato kind of homes that just have a little bit of an older look to them. I did like look into like more like traditional Mexican homes as well that are like in that, you know, stone staccato kind of material. I don't know why my brain is not going as fast as my mouth is going, and so I'm struggling and I'm like stuttering over my words. But anyways, so I did like a bit of research with that, and I spent like hours and hours, so I just couldn't find anything that like for me kind of represented what I really kind of wanted to show with this build. So I eventually just kind of go more along with just doing something that obviously has like a little bit more of a staccato, like very structured build, but also just utilizing what the game gives us anyways in regards to what they kind of envisioned for the lots and everything to look like. That's one thing, like, with this kitchen, I really do like the Jungle Adventure kitchen stuff. I think it looks really nice. I wanted to try to add in a good amount of color, with the build. So I did use, like, the half blue, half white, or gray, whatever you want to call it, walls. And that's the original, like, with the original build, they had the same walls as well. But I do end up changing that just because I felt like for me, I feel like with this pack, I wish that the staccato that they have came in like more vibrant, bright colors that weren't just like, because I think they did have like a yellowish, but like all of the colors in general, no matter what color it was, even if it is kind of seen as more of a brighter color, I just felt like all of them were very like dingy and dim. So that was like one problem that I really had, because I wanted it to be really bright and everything, so I feel like that, in my mind at least, when I think of like just South American homes in general, I feel like I think of very colorful, you know, bright. Obviously that is not how it is for every building in South America or in any of Central America and all of that, but that's what I really wanted, is I wanted it to be colorful. So I really struggled with that because a lot of the stuff just wasn't as colorful as I envisioned it should be. So I kind of just had to deal with that. And another thing that I kind of had an issue with too is the windows and everything. I didn't necessarily want to use a bunch of windows where it was just basically like, you know, a hole in the wall, essentially. I know that obviously happens sometimes, and you have just like the shutters to close it and everything, but I wanted this build to be with like normal ish windows and everything. So I only incorporated like a couple of the windows that were kind of like that here and there. But I also just don't think that I loved all of the window options. I wish there were a few more window options that kind of had like a stone exterior that also kind of looked like a normal window, essentially, where it obviously wasn't just like a hole in the wall. Because a lot of the windows ended up being more so, what's the word I'm looking for? Wood. I don't know why that escaped me as well. I don't know. It's the middle of the day. It's not that early, it's not that late. I don't know why. My brain right now is not functioning properly. But I wanted this definitely to be a rental property that like you could bring like a whole family to. So I wanted there to be a lot of space and a lot of room. But also I don't necessarily think that they're going to be spending too much time like in the house, unless you want to just chill in a house. You could totally vacation that way. That's fun to vacation that way as well. But I wanted there just to be enough space in the house. I didn't really care too much about like activities for them to do outside of their house. I figured they could go out to the market and do like the jungle adventure stuff. And I did end up deciding to kind of shrink it down a little bit and make it a little bit cozier, just because obviously for one, the build is taking up a lot of the space for the on the lot in general. And I just felt like it was too much. I thought it was too big and not that more like cozy, smaller feeling that I wanted. Like I said, I don't like, in my mind, this isn't a house that like you would necessarily like just stay on the property the whole time. Like you would go out, go to the marketplace, go on your little adventure in the jungle, really have the full experience of the area that you're staying in. And as far as the furnishings and everything, I pretty much decided that I should mainly stick with like the base game and jungle adventure. I do end up using a couple of other packs, I think, just here and there, just for a couple of things. But honestly, I didn't realize how many like actually really nice things that they have that came with jungle adventure, because like those nightstands or little side tables are actually really nice, and I just never really used them. And I didn't really realize like how much stuff like you could 110% do an entire build pretty much. With the jungle adventure, you'd obviously need a little bit of base game. There's just a couple of things that aren't there, like the toilet, for example. But like, I honestly genuinely thought I was gonna have to end up using like a lot of base game or a lot of other packs. But I mainly, like I said, used jungle adventure. I did use a little bit of some other packs, I think. I honestly don't know, but I haven't been limiting myself as much when it comes to a lot of the builds. I've just kind of been going off and doing whatever felt right, but focusing mainly on like the pack if I can. But I did, since the outside for me was lacking a lot of color, I did try to incorporate a lot of color in the bedroom. So for this for example, I did have it obviously red at first, but I just thought the red was too intense, so I decided to change it to orange, and I just felt like it fit the vibes better anyways, because I feel like in this build I ended up using a lot of blues, oranges, and yellows, so those were kind of the colors that I mainly tried to keep up with like using and everything. And I didn't want to add too much to the builds, just because, like, for one, I figured since it's a rental, you don't really need to have too many extra bits and bobs to it. But I normally do, like, try to incorporate some sort of, like, activity that you can do in my builds and stuff like that, or skill building. But I figured since it's not an actual, like, real home, it's just, like, a rental property, I figured we'd be okay if there wasn't like any like specific like skill building items. Obviously, you still technically end up doing some skill building because like there's mirrors, so you can do the charisma skill, and obviously there's a whole kitchen and cooking stuff, so you can do that skill. And I also did include a bookshelf, so obviously that in itself is, you can pretty much learn any and every skill with the bookshelf. But in this is like the last kind of time that I kind of go in and add in any changes and everything to the build. And I decided that I just didn't really like the white. I just felt like it didn't add enough character, and I felt like the build, I wanted it to have more character to it, obviously with colors and stuff. And with that, I did end up changing the fridge and the stove into just black, because I just felt like that was like the best thing that fit in with the more brown color that is the kitchen now. But I was tempted to go back to like something colorful. I just didn't feel like it fit very well. And I wasn't sure if I wanted this rental property to be more of a like rundown one initially or not, or if I wanted it to be like a really nice one that's, for people who are just vacationing there to vacation. But I did end up obviously going with more of like the nicer kind of build. I think like next time I build in Selvadorada, I will definitely try to go for someone who's there specifically just to do like the researching and what is it called? I can't think of what it's called. Archaeological digs and whatnot. So I will probably definitely try to incorporate more of like a rundown looking spot. So it'll be cheaper, because I think this one ended up at the end being like 500 a day, which I feel like it's pretty pricey. Obviously, there's definitely ones that are probably a lot more expensive, but I feel like in general, this one is pretty pricey. So next time I build, I think I build maybe closer to the jungle area and do something that's a little bit more rundown, and for someone who's really just there to, be out in the jungle all day. But also, I'll probably incorporate some of the archaeology things that Jungle Adventure comes with, so that it'd be perfect for a little researcher person. But I pretty much, when it comes to the other packs and like the little bits and pieces that come from other packs besides Space Game and Jungle Adventure, it's mainly the decorations, honestly. I just wanted to, make it look a little bit more lively and not so boring and dull, because I feel like it was kind of looking very much like a rental property that like no one really truly lives in. So I wanted it to look a little lived in, like, give it a little personality. But I think like at the end of the day, it's still pretty accurate to like a place that is, rented and not necessarily lived in on the regular. So I mainly just added in a couple plants and just like little bits and pieces here and there. I thought about maybe adding something up on the upstairs little like hallway, but there was just not that much room, so I didn't want to overcrowd it by any means. So I just decided to go ahead and leave it bare, because I couldn't really find any rug to fit in there, and I didn't want a table to stick out too much. And I thought about adding a computer, but I figured, it would be better to just enjoy the nature. So I just decided to add in a little bit of clutter, like maybe they like can do some notes and then add in a few books and stuff for it. I thought about doing like the journal bit and everything, but I figured just regular books would be fine, because again, this is not, I had to keep on reminding myself of that too, because I was really worried about like the lack of decorations and everything in the build. But I had to keep on reminding myself that it's a rental. It's not necessarily, and isn't necessarily going to look like someone really truly lives here. I wanted to try and incorporate the stone sink in the kitchen, but it just looked weird to me because it had like that bright orange faucet and everything. So I just decided not to. And then I just added a few bits and pieces to the kitchen, just to give it a little something. And that's one of the reasons why, too, I really think it was a good idea for me to kind of downsize the kitchen a little bit, so that there's less just like empty space in the kitchen area. But I didn't do too much. I just extended the little courtyard area for it, because I was really inspired to do like a courtyard area, and I wanted to do a little bit more for it, but I just didn't find anything that I think like really added to the build by any means. So I just kind of kept it blank and just added in those few vases up front and added in that little stool. Just because I think if it was like a regular house, I would probably try and incorporate like a fountain or, you know, a little bit more to it. But also the lot in itself is not that big either, and I didn't want to like make it super overcrowded. So I just figured I'd do a little bit of landscaping here just to add into it and kind of just give it a little bit more of a personality. The one plant that, like, the main plant that you can see here that's, like, in the background as well off the lot, I think that plant looks awful. The texture of that plant literally looks like plastic, but I could not with, I struggled a little bit to find, like, good plants to, like, really add in that wasn't, like, super repetitive. So there's a lot of just, like, palm trees, basically, because I just couldn't bring myself to use that plant because it looks so fake. But I wanted it to be, originally I wanted it to be very like filled with like trees and plants and everything, but I just didn't find that much that I really liked that I felt like it was like well incorporated. So that's what we ended up with. But I think for my first time doing something like this, like very outside of my comfort zone of what I normally build, I think it turned out pretty well. Definitely can use some practice doing more builds like this. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!